Hello, my name is Jamie Ward. I am the founder and CEO of People Wave Consulting. And today we're going to talk about salaried exempt status. Salaried exempt is essentially a paid for role in which there is a certain amount of money being paid on a weekly basis to an employee, and that employee does not have the ability to earn overtime beyond that set hour of weekly amount. So that's the basic definition of salary exempt. They're exempt from overtime. There are some criteria we have to consider if you want to have someone come on board your organization as salaried exempt. The Department of Labor has created a 3 criteria test that must be reviewed for each role coming on board. The first one is salary basis. There has to be an understanding that there is a fixed weekly amount that an employee must earn, and they won't earn any more than that during that time period. So that's the first consideration. Is that feasible with the current role that you're bringing someone on board? The second is they have to meet a salary level, meaning they have to make a certain amount. And currently the federal level in 2024 is $684 per week, and that has to be met. So if they're working 20 hours a week and that's their set salary time, they still need to make $684. So those are considerations we need to bring to the table. The third is job duties. And this is, I think, one of the most crucial pieces of this. And one of the things that trips a lot of people up. They have to be considered of a certain level of responsibility in terms of what they do in these job duties to really be considered exempt. So executive level, high-end administrative, professional levels like doctors, lawyers, that sort of thing would be considered for a potential salaried exemption. Think supervisors, managers as well. So someone coming in as an administrative assistant may not qualify for a salaried exemption status. So we have to really consider these things. And this is where I say it's the proof in the pudding. You really have to walk through what the person does on a day-to-day basis to really understand if you can claim the salaried exemption for that role. The one thing I will say to this is that it's definitely a consideration where you really can't fudge it. You have to really be able to say this is a standard criteria that where we should be at for this role and what it should be doing. I am constantly, as an HR professional, working with clients to walk through some roles where it might be a little iffy. And if it's iffy, I'm always more inclined to say this person needs to be hourly, non-exempt from overtime. So it's always better to be hourly non-exempt than salaried exempt in terms of the Department of Labor's review of worker status. So things to consider. Pros and cons. Working with salaried exempt, of course, the pro is that it's ease of payroll. They're coming on board. They're doing work for a set amount of time, and the employee can be flexible with how they do their work. The downside of this is that you've got to keep up with the rules of what salaried exempt requires for minimally on a yearly basis. Certain states have even more stringent rules than federal rules. So you have to be on top of that. And for those of you who have remote employees in other states, you have to consider the state they live in, not just the state where you might have your organization. So things like that are the cons to this. You really have to work through that process. Understand that it's a constant review on a yearly basis of where you fall with your statuses. There have been situations as a consultant where I've come in and said, hey, you're paying too low based on what's coming forth from the federal level or the state level regarding what the minimum pays are for your salaried employees. And we've had to do a big pay bump for all those employees, or we had to make a consideration of moving all those people to hourly status. So those are the kinds of decision making that have to be done at those crucial moments. So think about that as an employer. What do you need to do? What do you need to do from a strategy standpoint? and what do you need to do from the declaration of understanding where you need to go. A great resource I always like to use is the exemptions fact sheet for the Department of Labor. And you can just type in DOL exemptions fact sheet and it'll pop right up. And you can open that up and you can see the different types of exemptions that are out there and how they apply and what are the minimum requirements for those exemptions. So please feel free to check it out. Now, I will say states like California, they have even more stringent exemptions. So be mindful of that. If you have an employee living in California or your company's in California, you're really going to want to look at those very closely. Again, this just gets the conversation started. I hope this has been helpful to you all. Please click the like and subscribe buttons below. We really appreciate your taking that time for that. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and there'll be more to come. Take care. Bye-bye.